Hey guys! If this is your first time to my channel, hello and welcome. My name is Emily and today I am bringing you guys what I thought the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette should have been. So I am 100% sure that you guys know who Angelica Nyqvist is, but if for some reason you don't, I will leave her in the description box. But she is the one who, I believe, started these types of videos. Basically, it's like a shop by stash kind of situation where you see a palette or something that you want that's on the market or that's coming out soon, and you basically just go through what you already own and find very similar things. You basically go through to see if you already have these types of things in your collection. This way you aren't buying dupes, and I am very much guilty of buying many dupes in my collection. So once I found out that she was doing this type of, idea and video, I was so intrigued by it. And actually I wanted to start my YouTube channel to do videos like this because I kept seeing palettes come out where I owned like 80% of the palette myself in my collection. So that's the main reason why I started this YouTube channel in the first place, and I haven't even done a video like that on this channel yet. Today is going to be the very first video where I show you guys what I have from my collection that looks like the brand new Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette. Now this palette is available for pre-order right now on Amazon, and I'll have that linked down below if you want to pre-order it. It's only retailing for $10.99, which is a pretty inexpensive price. It's not crazy for a drugstore, it's not the cheapest thing at the drugstore, but it looks like a really nice palette. It's going to be officially available on April 13th on Amazon. I'm not sure if they're going to be releasing it in stores or in their actual Maybelline site yet. I've just heard Amazon, but this one might just be exclusive to Amazon. This palette has 12 shades, both matte and shimmer, and it has a subtle lemon scent, which I think is a really cute touch. I think that a lot of people won't like it because a lot of people are sensitive to scents, but I like the idea of putting in a scent if it actually smells good and if it's not too overpowering. Now when I saw Trendmood post the photos of the palette a couple weeks back, I knew right off the bat that I had this in my collection, and yes, I did consider buying it when it went on for pre-sale a couple days ago, but I know that I already have these shades and I don't really know Maybelline's formula. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but I am not really one to venture into the drugstore because I don't know. There's just kind of a stigma around it, and I know that stigma's kind of gone away, but with the kind of bad makeup and bad quality, makeup stigma going away, it actually kind of brought a new stigma, which is that they're decent products, but they're priced pretty high. So I really haven't ventured into the drugstore that much for that reason, but I need to because I know that there are some hidden gems there, and I know that things are changing and it's not like it used to be. But with that being said, I just didn't want to buy the palette because even though it's $10.99 and it's a really cool concept, and I love that it's named Lemonade Craze, I think that is so cute, and I like the idea of having, fruity, like themed palettes that aren't overdone like the TooFaced Peach collection. That is overdone. Way to beat a dead horse, guys, but I like when, companies come out with more unique things like this. But with that being said, I have this guy in my collection, so I'm going to be showing you guys that today. That was kind of a rambly intro, but let's get into the eyeshadows. So without further ado, ladies and gents, here is my palette, and this is what I have created to basically replicate the Lemonade Craze palette by Maybelline. And I'll go over each and every shade with you guys. The main focus for me on the palette was the yellow shade and the coral shade, as well as the berry shade. There was a couple browns, some neutral tones thrown in, and I understand people want a well-rounded palette with everything in one. You can just take it to go. You got your neutrals, you got your pops of colors. But for me personally, I don't give two farts about neutrals, so I just included the standout shades in the palette in this little guy right here. So the first shade that I have over here is a light lemony, like pale yellow shade, and this is Capri by Devinah Cosmetics. Now I noticed that in the Maybelline palette, they only had one yellow, which is surprising because it's a lemonade palette. You think there'd be a couple different tones of yellow, so I really wanted to include that in this palette specifically. So I decided to include a lighter toned yellow, which is the Devinah color, the Capri shade, and then the next one is a deeper kind of, it's not quite mustardy, but it's like a deeper kind of darker yellow tone. and this one is Tiki by Colourpop, and these are both very warm toned. And in the palette I noticed that there were some warm tones, but most of it was actually neutral, but the majority of the colorful shades were pretty warm toned, so I tried to stick with some warm tone shades for this particular palette. The guy in the corner over here on the top is Sydney Grace Cosmetics Pumpkin Spice Latte. This one is a peachy orangey shimmer, but it has a bit of an iciness to it, which makes it a really nice inner corner highlight. That is what I am wearing on my inner corners today. And I think it's a really beautiful color, and I think that it matches well with the kind of summery vibe that's going on with the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette. Starting on the bottom row here, we have... Okay. Why? Why? Starting on the bottom row here, we have Makeupgeek's Sorbet. Now I noticed that there was a light kind of peachy, almost pastel toned pink in the palette, and I immediately thought of Makeupgeek's Sorbet. This one is a beautiful light peachy pink color. It's more so pink, but there is that little kind of tinge of peach that's hanging out in there. So I definitely wanted to include this in the palette because I thought it went so beautifully with every tone in this palette. The second one in the bottom row here is Sydney Grace Cosmetics Tarte. This one is more of a kind of muted coral shade. Now I noticed that there was a coral in the palette, but it didn't look like a super vibrant coral, which personally I would prefer because a hot neon coral is my favorite shadow right now to go after. But it looked like a more muted toned coral, so I really wanted to put this guy in here. It's got a little bit of peachiness to it as well. It's kind of like a peachy coral shade that's a little bit more muted and a little bit more toned down. And that's what I saw in the palette, so I decided to replicate that guy, and I think that Sydney Grace's Tarte works out pretty darn well for that purpose. And the last shade in the palette here is Makeupgeek's Razzleberry. Now, I know. Isn't that one discontinued? That's what I thought too, but upon looking on the website, I found that I guess that it's not discontinued. I don't know. Makeupgeek and Marlena, she always brings back shades but doesn't announce it, and then she gets rid of shades and doesn't announce it, and I don't know what's going on over there. I really don't, but I'm happy she brought this back because I really wanted it. Now, when I got it in the mail, I thought the color was so freaking stunning. It's like a super warm toned raspberry pinky shade, and it's very saturated in pigment, and I really like the pigmentation of this specific eyeshadow. But as you can see, I'm sure, or in the swatches later, you'll be able to see that there is gold micro glitter just all up in this eyeshadow. Why in the hell would you put gold micro glitter and just ruin a beautiful shadow like this? Man. I don't know what's going on over at Makeupgeek headquarters, but I'm just not here for the, mattes with sparkles, and I know a lot of people aren't. It just makes so much fallout, and it blends away. You don't see the sparkle. I'm wearing this in my outer V as well as smudged under the lower lash line, and you don't see the sparkle on there. So I don't really understand the purpose of putting in sparkles in a matte shadow. It just creates a lot of fallout, and it just doesn't really have a purpose for me personally, in my opinion, to really be in the shadow, because it's just going to blend away into a matte shadow. So what's the point of dealing with extra glitter fallout all over your face? That was kind of a rant. Now you know how I feel about mattes with glitter, if you didn't already. But moving on, this shadow is actually really, really, really gorgeous, and I'm really happy that I have it, and I'm happy she brought it back because I love the tone of this specific raspberry, like light berry-ish shade. Really warm toned and super, super saturated in color. It's a very kind of like pinky red color, but it definitely has that hint of berry in it as well. And to me, she named it perfectly. Razzleberry is a super cute name, and it looks like a raspberry. It's literally the shade of a like fresh picked raspberry. As far as the sparkle goes, it blends away. When I was doing my eye look today, I could see the sparkle flying off of my brush and into the air and onto my cheeks, but nonetheless, it does blend away. So it's basically a matte shadow. You just have to work with it a little bit, but I wanted to include it in this palette because it's such a gorgeous shade, and I did see that kind of berryish color in the Lemonade Craze palette, and I just really wanted to put this guy in here because I just love the undertone, and I just love this shade. It's beautiful. The sparkle I could do without, but the shade is very beautiful. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick rundown on what I did with my eyeshadow today, just to kind of show what you can do with these types of colors. I put Capri in the upper crease as a transition shade. I kind of deepened it up a little bit with Tiki. I put Tarte by Sydney Grace through the lower crease and kind of kept it a little bit lower and tighter and closer to the lid. And then I deepened everything up in the outer V and kind of brought it about halfway through the lower crease with Razzleberry. Then I packed on Sorbet onto my lid, and then I sprayed down my brush and foiled Pumpkin Spice Latte and put it on my inner corner. That's just a quick rundown on how you can get a really simple eye look that's pretty wearable in my opinion. You have a little pop of color here and there, so it's still a little bit fun, but to me this is pretty wearable. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into some swatches of the palette. I'm going to go ahead and just do a finger swatch of every shade on my arm. Then I'm going to do a brush swatch, and in between each brush swatch I'm going to be wiping it off on my Vera Mona color switch. My arm is going to be unprimed and my brush is going to be completely dry. So let's go ahead and get right on into the swatches. As you can see, this guy looks pretty darn close to the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette, but in my opinion, I like this way more. This is way more colorful and you get more lemonade-ish colors in here. You know, they called it Lemonade Craze, but they really only gave you like 3 or 4 colorful shadows. I think they could have done more with the palette, but I understand why they kind of kept it a little more muted and a little more toned down. But for me personally, I am all here for the color. So I am really happy that I was able to find something in my collection that is close to the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette, but in my opinion, this guy is much better. Well, there you have it, guys. That is going to wrap up today's video. I hope that if you were taking a peek at the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette, that you take a look at your collection and see what you have. Maybe you have some shades that are pretty similar, or if you just want 1 or 2 shades from the palette, you can go out and just buy some singles and, you know, save some money and not have to go out and buy an entire palette and have shades that you don't want lying around, or, you know, if you have all of these shades in your collection, then you don't even have to buy the palette because you already have it. Like I said earlier, I completely credit this series to Angelica Nyqvist. I also know that Laura and Mae Beauty does it as well, so I will link them down below. But with that being said, I do hope that you consider subscribing. I have all sorts of makeup goodness happening here on this channel, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. I hope that you are having an absolutely awesome day wherever you are, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!